Around the world, military pilots have reportedly seen UFOs. In some cases, the pilots have actually engaged them in air-to-air combat. Now, 2 military pilots have come forward.
If it comes closer than 4 or 5 months, I'm going to jump out.
He was expecting the object to explode, but it didn't happen.
To actually engage a UFO for a period of 20 minutes, that's something extraordinary.
In 1976, reports of an unknown object over Tehran sends an F-4 scrambling to confront and destroy it.
It jumped from here to here, just like that.
In 1980, a Peruvian fighter jet opens fire on an unknown object trespassing in military airspace.
A commander gave him the order to take off and destroy the object.
Do these UFOs execute maneuvers and capabilities that rule out terrestrial craft?
Camera guy's puking, trying to do his business in the bag.
The team, along with former military pilots, put 2 of the world's best UFO dogfight cases to the test, high above the Pacific.
That's certainly no aircraft I've ever seen.
This is case number 76102, UFO dogfights.
UFOs always got the chance.
Dogfight is a term that really came out of World War I, World War II era. An important element of what I would consider a real dogfight is that both parties are trying to shoot down, kill the other one. When I hear that some of our best pilots, some of our best fighters have had a dogfight with a UFO, I say, I'm not exactly sure. I'm Bill Scott, former flight test engineer. I tested aircraft between 1974 and 1987.
On February 21st, 2008, the team was invited to March Air Force Base in Riverside, California, to continue their investigations into reported dogfights between military aircraft and UFOs. They have uncovered some shocking new evidence.
We're going to be talking about some of the most credible, phenomenal evidence in all of ufology, military dogfights with UFOs. We're going to be meeting with the pilot who actually engaged a UFO over Peru, and we're going to be talking about a case of Parviz Jafari, who actually engaged a UFO over Iran, over Tehran, in 1976. So these are 2 cases we're really excited about.
This is all testimony based, or do we have actual physical or hard evidence?
I understand there are official government documents involved.
If we have hard evidence, I'm very curious to take a look.
Get set to get your world rocked. Let's go.
All right.
One of the most incredible stories you'll ever hear is the story of Parviz Jafari from the Iranian Air Force.
It is approximately 11 p.m. on September 18, 1976. Citizens of Tehran, Iran, are frightened by a large lighted orb circling above them. These are not the standard helicopters, military jets, and civilian aircraft which frequent the Iranian skies. At this time, Iran is a major U.S. ally in the Mideast. This is still 3 years away from the Islamic Revolution and the Ayatollah Khomeini's rise to power. Because Iran shares a border with the Soviet Union, the U.S. military provided training and state-of-the-art F-4 Phantom fighters to the Iranian Air Force.
The F-4E was what was used in the Jafari case. At that particular time, it was probably one of the best jets that could go out to do aerial engagements.
Shown for the first time on American television, the following are scenes from an Iranian TV movie about this UFO encounter. It starred some of the actual military personnel involved in this event, including Parviz Jafari, and used the actual control tower transcripts. Numerous UFO reports continue to come into the control tower at Mehrabad Airport. These are not military or commercial aircraft. Hussein Peruzi is in charge of the air traffic control tower. He has heard enough and notifies the Iranian Air Force. At 11:31 p.m., they scramble an F-4 from Shiroki Air Base, located in Hamadan, 175 miles southwest of Tehran. The first pilot, Captain Aziz Khani, takes off to investigate the object. 10 minutes later, the base orders another F-4 to be scrambled, this one piloted by Parviz Jafari.
Jafari was a major at that time, and he was vectored to intercept the strange light that was over Tehran.
I'm Parviz Jafari, a retired general from Iranian Air Force.
Jafari estimates the object is as large as a Boeing 707 jet.
He followed the light towards the Russian border when suddenly an object broke off from the light and headed towards Jafari's own plane.
I turned toward it. I put it on my 12 o'clock. I got close to it, and you can't imagine, all of a sudden, it jumped from here to here, just like that.
Based on his location, Jafari estimates the object has traveled almost 28 miles to his right in the blink of an eye. This movement was well beyond the capabilities of any man-made object.
I asked the tower if they have any flight. They said no, they don't have any flight overhead.
As Jafari continues his approach toward the object, he witnesses something incredible.
Something like a moon came out of it.
A second object came out of the first
Another object below the horizon and starts flying toward me.
This second orb-like object descends from beneath the triangular lights and races toward Jafari's F-4. Although Jafari is traveling at supersonic speed, this incoming craft streaks by his jet and circles him as if he's standing still.
Now imagine I'm flying to a speed of close of sound and something circling around me.
After circling Jafari's aircraft, the second orb now returns to the larger diamond-shaped craft, still hovering approximately 25 miles in the distance. For a moment, Jafari thinks he is out of danger, but to his astonishment, another orb has descended and is streaking directly toward his jet for the second time. Jafari now believes he is under attack. He reaches for his instrument panel to arm and fire an AIM-9 heat-seeking missile. But what happens next shocks him.
Green and red light should be both on so I could fire. When I looked back on the left side of the instrument panel, the weapon panel was out, no light on it.
Jafari believes that in the heat of combat with this UFO, it sent a massive pulse of electromagnetic energy toward his plane, temporarily disabling all of the onboard electronics, including the navigation equipment, avionics, and weapons systems. With a disabled missile system and no way to defend against this unknown object, Jafari considers ditching his plane.
I thought if it comes closer than 4 or 5 miles, I'm going to jump out.
But before Jafari has to make that fateful decision, the object reverses direction and once again returns to the larger craft.
When it moved away from me, I could see the main object there and went right underneath of it and disappeared.
Having just endured a harrowing engagement with multiple UFOs over the dark skies north of Tehran, Major Jafari decides it is no longer safe to continue tracking this mysterious diamond-shaped object. He is granted permission to return to Tehran, but as he descends, he realizes a second chapter of his encounter is about to unfold.
When I was on descent, again another of these round shape was chasing me.
As Jafari descends for his approach to Mehrabad Airport, he sees another small object chasing from behind. On his final approach, he looks over his shoulder and witnesses the object descending toward the desert floor.
I could see all of the sands on the ground. It was so bright, so bright.
Jafari is diverted from landing and is ordered to identify the object that has appeared to touch down near the airbase. According to both military and civilian eyewitnesses, the object is believed to have crash-landed just outside of Shemiran, Iran.
In a very fast speed toward the ground, which I thought I will see a very, very big explosion. But it didn't happen. The object came right on the ground and stopped there.
Upon landing at Mehrabad Airport, Parviz Jafari knew he would have to soon debrief his commanders about the night's events. What he didn't realize is that the Iranian military weren't the only ones interested in his encounter.
One of the American colonel was listening to me, writing, taking note.
How deeply was the CIA involved in this case and its cover-up?
When Jafari landed, there were American CIA agents and an Air Force colonel waiting for him to debrief him.
Seen on television for the first time ever, the unclassified official military report. Why did this document go all the way to the White House? And what was found the next day at the crash site? Over Iran in 1976, Major Parviz Jafari has a harrowing dogfight encounter with what he thinks is a UFO. Upon landing, he was debriefed by high-ranking Iranian military officials. There was also an American CIA agent present. The agent filed a report, which is now unclassified, that was distributed to the CIA, the Air Force, the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, and the White House. It was titled, quote, "Iran reported UFO sighting." According to the report, a UFO was seen about 11 p.m. on September 18, 1976. Besides Jafari's sighting, the control tower received, quote, 4 telephone calls from citizens living in the Shemiran area of Tehran, saying they had seen strange objects in the sky. Some reported a bird-like object, while others reported a helicopter. There were no helicopters airborne at that time. The report details and confirms Jafari's sighting, including the loss of his avionics. Quote, "As the F-4 approached a range of 25 nautical miles, he lost all instrumentation and communications." The report further confirms that 2 objects were seen, one as big as, quote, "a 707 tanker," and again, quote, "the second object headed straight toward the F-4 at a very fast rate of speed," and then, quote, "the pilot attempted to fire an AIM-9 missile at the object, but at that instant, his weapons control panel went off," and then, quote, "initiated a turn and negative G dive to get away." In a very curious ending to this event, the Department of Defense report says that the next day, the crew was taken by helicopter to an area where the object was seen to crash land by local residents. According to the report, the landing area is, quote, "being checked for possible radiation. Further information about this case either never came or remains classified.
I saw it, so I have to believe it.
Impressed with Jafari's story and the detailed Department of Defense report, the team wants to dissect and test the three most critical elements of this case. First, the object appears to jump over 25 miles in an instant. Second, the object appears to release an orb that approaches Jafari at a speed faster than anything man-made. And third, what would it take to shut down all of the electronics on one of the world's most advanced fighter jets at the time, the F-4E Phantom? The team, along with their flight consultant, former Air Force flight test engineer Bill Scott, feel the very best way to test and understand this event is through a practical demonstration using actual fighter planes. The team is at Air Combat USA in Orange County, California, the top aerial dogfight group in America. Their staff is made up of former military pilots with years of military flight experience.
My name is Ben Clerks, ex-U.S. Air Force.
I'm Michael von Piedinghoff, call sign Baron, and I was a captain in the German Air Force.
You're flying the CI Marchetti SF-260. It's an Italian light attack aircraft capable of dropping bombs, shooting rockets, and machine gun fire. The aircraft is rated at +6, -3 Gs. It goes about 270 miles per hour, and it flies just like a light attack fighter. It's the real deal.
The pilots, along with Bill Scott, have calculated that recreating this event at 25% scale would give the best results with this airplane, meaning they will fly at 25% of the speed and cover 25% of the distance.
We chose to use regular airplanes to try to duplicate some of these engagements because I think it really brings home to people the kind of dynamics involved in some of these engagements. Yes, we're using different types of aircraft. There are a lot of things we could not do with the Machis, but it's very illustrative, I think.
Today we want to recreate the events. We will go out with two airplanes, and one of us will simulate the unidentified object. We don't want to get within 500 feet. That's our safety distance. In case of an emergency, we will have parachutes. We'll say bail out, bail out, bail out. That's our commando. We'll jettison the canopy. Okay, let's go fly.
All right, that works.
Bulletin ground, good afternoon. Comet 1, flight of 3 with Quebec at a Comet ready to taxi.
The pilots estimate it will take 13 minutes to reach their FAA-designated dogfight zone, high over the Pacific Ocean between Long Beach and Catalina Island. The dogfight begins. The team is demonstrating the first key element of this case, that the UFO moved miles in an instant. Ted and Baron, as the UFO, make a very fast and exaggerated turn at maximum speed.
It jumped from here to here, just like that.
Bill Scott and Joker attempt to follow from a slow and gliding start.
Roger, on this one we got to simulate a right turn trying to track the target, and this is simulating the target jumping 10 degrees in a very short amount of time.
Baron has the lead.
All right, Bill, looks like we got target acquisition about 9:30, 10 o'clock. All of a sudden he jumped over to 10:30 in the space of about a split second.
Yeah, like 10-degree jumps at a time, it looks like.
All right, now he's over there at about 11 o'clock.
Yep.
We're in the right turn trying to track him here. Every time we get close enough, he jumps out about another 10 degrees. At about 25 miles out, that's about a 3-mile change every second or so.
Yeah, it's pretty dramatic.
It's just an instantaneous acceleration. He's not even, it's just a split second, and he's another 10 degrees over there. Now he's at about 11 o'clock.
Even at this reduced scale, the movements Ted and Barron's plane execute makes it nearly impossible for Joker and Bill to follow. Imagine this scenario when both craft are traveling at over 1,000 miles per hour.
That's certainly no aircraft I've ever seen.
The team's second simulation will demonstrate the incredible speed at which the secondary object was moving as it raced directly at Jafari's F-4 Phantom. Although the single-engine Marchetti aircraft being flown today are nowhere near the F-4 Phantom's capabilities, they will be able to demonstrate the sense of speed and closure rate that Jafari experienced as the secondary UFO approached and circled his supersonic fighter.
We'll check about 90 right, and Barron will set up another pass.
Okay, Barron is coming in.
Roger. Not a whole lot of margin for error there.
This is what it looks like when two objects, both traveling at 160 miles per hour, pass in opposite directions at a distance of 50 feet. It is just a blur. Now imagine this scenario at night, and both Jafari and the UFO are traveling toward each other at a combined speed of over 2,000 miles per hour. The team repeats this maneuver, this time even faster and even closer. The day after the event, September 19th, 1976, the crash site was reportedly searched and tested for radiation. But according to Jafari, nothing was found, despite the numerous reports.
Okay, let's go home.
So what was the experience? I mean, here you are coming at each other at what, 160 miles an hour?
Yeah, about 130 knots, and they were doing about 130 knots closing. That's about 320. It happens in a blink of an eye. You know, they're a tiny black speck way off in the distance, and a few seconds later, they're blowing right by you, 300 plus miles an hour.
He's flying that way, and suddenly when he goes to take a defensive position, because the object makes a hostile move towards him, his missile panel locks up.
Well, first of all, as a pilot, if your instrument panel goes down, you are in deep. There's no way it's meant to happen. These systems are built, they've evolved. They're the most robust engineering that we have. You know, it's equipment that's used for war. It's got to be incredibly robust. It's got to last up through, you know, bullets going through it, and to have your entire panel go down is stunning. And it's not just the pneumatic system, it's not just the electrical system, it was all the systems. And like, I can't even imagine an explanation for how that would happen physically.
The biggest mystery of this case remains. It's a fact that Jafari lost all instrumentation and use of his weapon systems through some electrical anomaly.
So there was something affecting the comm panel and the missile system, we know for sure.
Was this caused by the UFO? The team puts Jafari's key theory to the test.
In the Iranian case, when the F-4 ran out there, the pilot, I'm sure, was very confident. He had one of the top fighters of the world. Go check it out. And then when something came at him very quickly, you know, he immediately saw it as a threat. So he, you know, armed an AIM-9 missile, master arm, went to fire, everything locked up on him.
The team heads to Experiments producer John Tyndall's lab to participate in an EMP demonstration.
Tyndall's going to show us what might have happened to the AIM-9 weapons panel on Jafari's F-4 Phantom jet when he tried to lock his missile on to defend himself against what he believed to be an attack by a UFO.
My demonstration today is basically to recreate an EMP event such as that might have been experienced in this certain Iranian case that we're investigating. This UFO seemed to fire some sort of a pulse at the fighter jet, and it knocked out a lot of the electronics.
So basically I have an EMP generator. We're going to kind of investigate what was going on in the Iranian case.
His instrumentation all went down, his weapons locked, and somehow this thing was able to basically control his airplane and prevent him from firing.
What we have here is basically a modified Tesla coil, and what that means is we're going to take house current at 110 volts, take it up to 15,000 volts. The charge is building up within the capacitors until it reaches a threshold, and then bam, it is going into this coil and inducing current up into this coil.
If the test is successful, John will be able to knock out a standard consumer computer without fully disabling it, illustrating that a similar event could happen on a much larger scale.
One of the things about onboard computers and fly-by-wire airplanes is that they usually have a built-in protection, which is the airframe itself. We're going to set up a flight simulator here and show how the effects of this EMP burst will disrupt flight computers or any kind of computer for that matter. Whoa! All right, level it off, baby.
Pretty good, I'm easing in.
So we can say at this point we're like about to say at the 25-mile point. I think you want to come over next to me.
Okay.
Lights. All right. Are you ready? In 3, 2, 1.
$15,000 volts of low amperage power was able to shut down the computer. But will it turn back on after such a dramatic EMP event?
Okay, we're disarmed. Jeff, see if you can reboot the computer.
Here's the attempt.
Hey, wow.
Oh, and you are getting some computer operation there.
Yep, it came back. CPU did not die.
Like Jafari's electronics, the computer returns to normal at the end of the pulse.
John, you've demonstrated that you were able to render a panel on that computer inoperative in much the same way that an electron beam or whatever beam that UFO fired rendered Jafari's controls inoperable on that night in 1976.
If we're talking about an extraterrestrial civilization visiting us, they may have technology that's far superior to what we had in the lab today.
So even though this was a success, the scale is the big surprise. Because to get these results, from something 36 inches away, at 25 miles away, it's just an unbelievable amount of power. And especially since it actually has to penetrate a metal cage, a metal airframe, to do its damage.
Although Jafari's encounter was witnessed by many, and he claimed the Iranian military is interested in the UFO phenomenon, just 3 years later, the Iranian Revolution created a closed and secret society within Iran. Reports of UFOs were no longer coming to the West.
I haven't seen anything like this before, and what I think and what I believe and everybody else believed it, that was an unknown foreign object, a UFO.
After putting the three main components of Jafari's case to the test, the team doubts that a man-made flying object could mimic the movements that Jafari saw that night. And while the sudden loss of the F-4's computer system can be explained by the intense electromagnetic pulse, the real facts remain elusive. But 4 years later, a similar and even more dramatic UFO dogfight occurs over Peru. But this time, the pilot was able to attack. On February 18, 2008, Oscar Santamaria arrives at Los Angeles International Airport from Lima, Peru. Santa Maria is in Los Angeles to work with the UFO Hunters to help prove the facts and events around his extraordinary case of a UFO dogfight over Peru in 1980.
Soy Oscar Santamaría Huertas, oficial piloto de la...
I am Oscar Santamaría Huertas, a pilot for the Peruvian Air Force, right now in retirement.
El 11 de abril de 1980,
The 11th of April of 1980,
a las 7:15 horas de la mañana,
at 7:15 in the morning,
en la base aérea
at the airbase of La Joya in Peru,
los 1,800 hombres,
1,800 military people in charge that day,
observaron al final de la pista.
They observed at the end of the runway an object that looked like a balloon.
No tenía permiso
that didn't have authorization to fly in the area.
Suponíamos que podría ser un aparato espía.
And they thought it was an spy.
El comando de la base,
a commander gave him the order to take off and destroy the object right away.
Santa Maria fires 64 rounds from his 30mm cannon directly at the object. But to his amazement, the bullets seemed to pass right through the object and would have clearly destroyed anything in their path, including a weather balloon.
He was expecting the object to explode,
pero no fue así e inició un ascenso.
But it didn't happen, and the object started ascending. He proceeded to go after the object.
Santa Maria pursues and notices the unidentified object is doing something else. Every time he gets within range, the object climbs, executing maneuvers worthy of Top Gun. However, the most harrowing part of his story is yet to come, and it involves the U.S. military.
I just recently met Oscar Santamaria, and I listened to his story, and I have to wonder, why would this military commander come out with this UFO story unless he was really, really affected by this experience? I believe he saw something that really shook him and that stayed with him to this day.
Due to the complexity and shocking nature of this event, Oscar Santamaria has always encountered skeptics who simply cannot believe that both he and this object made such extraordinary maneuvers during his dogfight with what he thinks was a real UFO. The team wants to determine if the Santa Maria UFO had maneuvering capabilities that were greater than anything that existed at the time. Since they don't have access to a Sukhoi 22 jet, they will use the next best thing available. They return to Air Combat USA to take this case to the sky. The team has identified 3 key elements of this case that they want to test and demonstrate. The fact that Santa Maria locked onto and fired at the UFO with no effect is incredibly impressive to the team, but difficult to test. However, 2 key aerial maneuvers can be analyzed with some accuracy in the air. First, the UFO came to a dead stop in midair. Second, from this dead stop, the UFO began a steep, fast climb. In order to give the team an accurate depiction of the events of that night, Experiments producer John Tyndall has devised a laser tracking tool with 2 lasers, one red, one green, both controlled by joysticks. The green laser represents the flight path of the UFO. The red laser represents the flight path of the jet. Together, they give a scale representation of the event.
Hey, John. How you doing? Good.
Comandante.
Yeah.
Aquí.
What I have here is a top-down view using these laser pointers as basically a scale model of the movement of any of these UFOs and the aircraft, respectively. I can scale the movement to match the speed of the scale on the map. Where was your airfield? The red laser is indicating your aircraft, and that is traveling at around 1,000 miles an hour.
Santa Maria, using the red laser, shows his position at the point of the first attack.
As he got closer into the 900-meter firing position, he fired 64 rounds. And he knows that he hit the object, but nothing happened. It didn't explode. The object started moving away at a fast pace.
En ascenso.
Yes, as he moved away, he climbed at the same time. The object stopped all of a sudden. He almost hit it, so he went around his right to take a firing position. As he was getting close to the 900-meter range, he activated the post-combat.
Is afterburner?
Afterburner, post-combustion.
Yes, all of a sudden, the object climbed once again.
The most amazing part of this story is that once he goes to afterburners, the UFO makes an evasive move straight up, and Santa Maria yanks back and starts to fly up as well, now traveling at over 1,000 miles per hour. But incredibly, the UFO stops in midair, and after he passes, the UFO follows him, accelerating from a dead stop. An impossible maneuver.
So he was doing the supersonic speed, and he passed the object. The object then started climbing next to him.
They're both climbing roughly vertically. Then what?
At 19,000 meters, he couldn't climb no more, and he was practically floating.
At 19,000 meters, just over 62,000 feet, Santa Maria began to lose control of his plane. The Su-22 has a ceiling of 60,000 feet and could no longer operate at this altitude.
Without a capacity to attack one last time, he started getting back to the base.
After briefing the pilots on his specific flight plan and maneuvers, Barron, Joker, Ted, and Bill Scott prepare for takeoff to demonstrate the details of this strange engagement.
For the attack. Guns, guns, guns.
And are looking to prove this case once and for all. Like the Jafari event, Oscar Santamaria's case was discovered by the Department of Defense and Joint Chiefs of Staff, and a full report was issued, which landed on some of the most powerful desks in Washington, D.C. Pilots had just taken off in 2 fighter planes to help recreate and prove Oscar Santamaria's reported UFO dogfight encounter over Peru in 1980. The pilots are now approximately 7 minutes away from their dogfight location.
I got to keep your eyes peeled out here. It's not exclusively ours, the airspace.
Recently declassified military documents show that a detailed report was actually made about this event, much to Santa Maria's surprise.
After your flight, the American Department of Defense just had your whole statement in a Defense Department report, and I'm wondering, how do you think they got it?
La comunidad de inteligencia entre los estados intercambian información.
Oh, really?
It's a close community between countries and the air forces, so they communicate with each other and they let each other know.
While the U.S. government stopped investigating UFOs with the closure of Project Blue Book in 1970, this Santa Maria report, released by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, shows something else. It is presented here for the first time on television. This document was distributed to the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State, the NSA, and the CIA. The title of the document is, quote, UFO sighted in Peru. The document clearly states, quote, source is officer in the Peruvian Air Force who observed the event. The source reported, quote, a UFO was spotted near a Peruvian Air Force base in southern Peru, and the FAP tried to intercept and destroy the UFO, but without success.
This event reached the highest levels of the United States Department of Defense. And remember, Peru was not an American client at the time. It was a Soviet client in the Cold War. So it reached the highest levels of our Defense Department. How?
Oscar Santamaria first received a copy of this document in 2001 when the Peruvian Air Force opened up the country's first official UFO investigation. After studying dozens of cases, the Peruvian Air Force found this to be the most credible unresolved UFO case in the country's history. There is no word on what the official U.S. government's response was to this document.
We're in the area, we're ready. And Joker, you have relief.
The fighter planes have reached their location. The dogfight is about to begin. Former U.S. Air Force flight test engineer Bill Scott sits in the Oscar Santamaria plane, and UFO hunter Ted Ackworth will be in the UFO plane, attempting to maneuver like the UFO. Just like Santamaria, they line up in firing position. Santamaria said he fired on the UFO with no effect. Next, Santamaria said the UFO came to a complete stop. It's something no known plane can do because the incredible G-forces would kill the pilot.
Guns, 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 we're going, ready, ready. Here comes the brake.
As the UFO plane hits the brakes, the Santamaria plane flies right by, having to bank in order to avoid collision. Even in this prop plane, the G-forces of slowing down so much have a rough effect on the cameraman in the chase plane.
Camera guy's puking, trying to do his business in the bag.
The team repeats this maneuver 3 times. In the most harrowing maneuver possibly ever attempted by a Peruvian Air Force pilot, Santamaria reached the operating ceiling of his aircraft, 62,000 feet, while being pursued by the UFO. His life was on the line.
And Baron, why don't you start how about an 11 360, 45 degrees of bank? This is the simulation where the UFO goes vertical. When we're ready, I'll give a count of 3, and then Baron will just tighten up the turn and pull away from us.
Joker, in the Santamaria plane, swoops down from above. The UFO evades, and Joker dives into a J pattern, climbing to nearly vertical. The UFO follows behind, attempting to climb vertically as well.
There he goes vertically.
Goodbye.
We can't catch up.
What they have just shown is that there is no way a man-made craft could accelerate from a standstill to over 1,000 miles per hour at that altitude in an instant. It further shows that one of the world's best fighter jets at the time could have never caught up to it.
Okay, let's go home. Okay, Baron has the lead, clear to rejoin, right side, on this question.
Set it up where the bogey or the UFO was here, and then we made several passes at him. Okay.
Did the UFO have a chance?
The UFO's always got the chance, but yeah. He outmaneuvered us, and if the UFO was able to climb at the rate it did, it doesn't matter what we were flying. Sounded like the UFO was just playing with him.
Yeah.
Being inside the aircraft and basically attempting to copy or mimic those maneuvers, you just realize there's just no way any man-made vehicle could have performed those maneuvers that UFO did.
Either the colonel's lying or we had some sort of object that is totally not man-made that exceeded all known flight performance characteristics of anything that we have terrestrially.
The team reconvenes in the map room to discuss the results of their test flights.
The planes we just flew, there's no way they can climb vertically. Not at that performance level.
From a standing start to that speed.
How many planes are there out there that could climb supersonically vertically?
There's a lot of them that can, anything with better than 1-to-1 thrust ratio. However, you don't start from a dead start. Right. You have to get a run like he did.
It's the speed and the maneuverability. When you hear the story of this thing stops, goes vertical, goes to more than supersonic instantly,
hovers, goes to
nothing we can do, nothing we can do to match that.
To actually engage a UFO for a period of 20 minutes, that's something extraordinary. You might see something for a moment or two and not be able to identify it, but be able to engage it for 20, 22 minutes, that's a totally credible situation.
2 cases, 2 credible pilots, 2 sets of official military unclassified documents that show these cases went to the highest level of the government. And what about the other cases of UFO dogfights that have not yet been reported? 2 pilots in 2 different parts of the world have engaged objects with extraordinary maneuverability, but it's not clear what. The team's work continues.